Um, so basically, I wanted to have this conversation today about leadership, direction of where people's minds go. We're talking about online activity and what people follow. We're talking about, I was just mentioning today, me dealing with kids in school and they just following people. I met one young man who's in the sixth grade, and he had, he had been held back because of his mindset, and he was playing games and wasn't doing his work. And you could just see a maturity about him now, that he realizes that he had chosen the wrong people as far as leading him down the wrong path last year. Now this year he has a new attitude, a new mindset, and he's become the leader that he needs to be able to progress. So it's not just adults, it's children. But can we speak on leadership, what it is and what it isn't and what it should be? Can we talk about that?
Sure. Like I don't have any problem with that. Um, for me, the leaders are people who can show by example what people should be doing, should not be doing, the right way how to do things. It is very simple. For me, it's very simple. Like, because I grew up in a household where there was great leadership in the household. So my parents, my mother and father, were great leaders, and so I had that example coming from home, even, them, and then, the teachers that I came up, come up in school with were really good, especially the formative years, the teachers in the elementary school I went to. So I've had great examples of leadership and guidance, from an early age, and as long as I can remember. And for me, like my the greatest examples was my actual parents. You know, so that's how I determine um, what good leadership looks like based on my own experience. Coming up as a young person and seeing from my father what manhood actually is, and from my mother what womanhood actually is, and how to lead a family. Because to me, it's like one of the greatest opportunities you have to demonstrate leadership is with your own family. You know what I mean? We could talk about leading people out, and people who we're not really connected with. But if you are successful at raising a great family and bringing them to the place of being productive members of society where they're actually contributing, and living and living lives, that's productive and can carry on the information and the leadership that you taught them, carried it on to their families. I think that's one of the greatest examples of leadership is being a great parent. So that's my example. That's just me talking, but that's my example.
All right, thank you, brother Ali. Cool Kim, I wanted to know, like in that light too. I know that you lead by example, and I mean you're a trailblazer. I would say you're a great leader. But what is great leadership to you, sir? And what happens in the privation, the absence of having parents that are leaders? What should we be able to do, if you can speak on that?
Okay, well, let me start off by first saying, when we talk about leadership, right? Because I guess the words matter a lot, so that we can really have a clear idea, what we're gonna mean in the context of the conversation when we talk about what a leader is. Because I think that a lot of times when we think about the term leader, we think the grandiose version of leadership, which is like, like Ali was saying, being a good father, a good husband is leadership, but it's a grandiose version of leadership. You know what I mean? Meaning it's very huge version, like almost an extreme version of what leadership is. You know, leading an army, in general, that's an extreme version. Leading the team to play sports is an extreme version even. But what about someone that provides mentorship in an issue that you're not familiar with? You know, is that person a leader? You know, is, you know, a teacher, right? You know, what if it's a system that you need to understand or comprehend? And that system could be applied in any capacity. It could be a street system, a system for work, corporate, how to function in corporate society. You know, whatever the system is that you have to learn, there's somebody that teaches you that system, or someone that provides guidance, and you know, someone that you respect enough to be guided by, because that's another thing. It's not so much that leadership requires that the person that's leading be respectable. It's that the person that requires the leadership is respectful, so that they can even access leadership. Because leadership comes in so many different forms and fashions, right? This is where, you know, whether or not we could even be like access good leadership. I think sometimes that we put this burden on the good thing that comes into our reality, for the fact that it's good, that it's supposed to just work no matter what the obstacle is, when that's not how it really goes. Good things aren't the default in life, so good leadership is not the default. Finding someone that will earnestly lead a group of people or a situation, a circumstance, with good intent, effectively and consistently, you know, that's a very rare thing to come about. So the questions about leadership have to begin with our capacity to follow. Because if we don't have a good follower capacity, if we don't understand what it means to be a good follower, and be like, yo, this is how I'm going to vibe with good leadership when it presents itself to me, then we can never really even be in a space to identify good leadership. And without, you know, going out on a risk here, it's similar to saying to me, and this is just an opinion thought, but it may help bridge the thought. Um, it's similar to when I hear some women uh, say how there's no good men. And it's like, nah, sister, that ain't no good man. I know plenty of good dudes. Them not the dudes you're trying to see. Like, you know, just the same way as the reverse could be said, you know, in certain scenarios. It was like, nah, you wanted ones that look like this or was acting like that or whatever. That's not what a good man is doing. You know, like you're not going to find that there. Or rare. It's the same thing with us in, you know, leadership. We're looking at leaders and we kind of want them to be a certain way. You know, that they got to look a certain way. They got to have a certain degree of opulence. You know, they got to be a success story where they made millions of dollars and now they felt compelled to talk to you who've done nothing. But you can't, you like, you don't have any qualifications to even be worthy of any insight from this leader that we're talking about. But somehow or another, your qualifications for said leader is so beyond you that you would never even be able to interact with that person. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, when we start like tapping into those things, that very important conversation about who we are in the face of leadership, you know, the way we got it right now with leadership, you'd be scared to lead anything because, you know, people think leadership means the front man in a band. Like, whoever what the singer was is the lead singer, is the, like, that's what they think leadership is, the guy that gets the groupies at the end of the movie, the one that, or the one that gets the girl, is the leader, or the one that gets the most money for the situation is the leader. And that's very rare that you really see that kind of thing happening in a real leadership situation. It's generally some guy busting his tail to do something for a community that takes his presence or her presence for granted. And They work thanklessly to achieve little to nothing. You understand, in the scope of things, and all of what they sacrifice 9 times out of 10 revert to back to what it was, or even worse, once they're not there. And
Mm,
that, and that's just the result of having a business that's based on a personality based business, which is what leadership is. So, you know, again, how many leaders do all of us have every day that we could be learning from and growing from, but we don't even acknowledge their leadership? You understand, to be able to take advantage of that at all, because we too haughty in our ego and stuff that, like, but we talking like we would recognize Jesus if he came back the way some people be talking. Like, yo, you wouldn't recognize that concept if it ever manifested itself in front of you,
that's
because
right.
it wouldn't look like what you think it's supposed to look like. They say when a student is ready, the teacher will come. Not when the teacher's got his stuff together and is made successful inroads. And it just so happens that when you succeed and when you got a bunch of this, that, and the third, everybody ready to listen to you. So everybody ready to be a student to someone that succeeded in some obvious way. But you missing the cat that's living in your spectrum, succeeding every day in ways that you can't in that spectrum. Meaning to say, what you want to hear from like Will and Jada Smith to what it takes to have a marriage, a successful marriage, right? Like you would want to listen to what they say because they're billionaires. But, and I'm not slighting them, you know what I mean? Because we know the marital issues that they had. That's the name that came to me. I couldn't think of any other
Right.
celebrity company off my head. But, why would we want to get, insight from a celebrity couple that has experienced life in a way that we're not experiencing life? They don't know nothing about the lights potentially going off because, whatever circumstances this
Mm.
month. You know what I mean? They don't know how to love through that. So what could they offer you who has to learn to love through that? You know what I'm saying? Why you want to listen to some celebrity person?
All right. We lost you for a second there. You can come back in, brother. Your I don't know if your mic broke up or something.
Oh, you lost me. Okay. I'm sorry. But
Just for like 5 seconds.
okay. Well, I was just trying to say, we go into these celebrities like some kid that got on it 19 years old, and now they 40 years old and they talking like they're a genius. And it's like, dude, you got picked. Like this is not really like you did something so unique that you can tell the average Joe what it is to make it, who they're not 19 anymore. Even if they were, like that's not the arc of their life, is to get put on by somebody because you fit the mold of what somebody else was looking for. So they put you got put in a position. That's what some of these people talking to y'all are talking from. Yo, you gotta do the nonsense. The secret. The secret is what's gonna get you. You gotta know the secret. Secret is that whatever you put out into the universe is what you gonna put back. All right, cool. So you putting out what you putting out in the universe, and it just so happens I'm on the opposite spectrum, wanting the exact opposite for the situation, and I'm putting it into the universe. Now, what was we pitting hope against hope? But that's the kind of the like silliness that people sell you, so that you can't focus on what really going on and really engage things like leadership and what it means and what it means, your role in that situation. And even when you're the leader, how you got to know how to be a follower at that point, because that's the ebb and flow of leadership. Is rolling up your sleeves and going to work and like, yo, I gotta do this thing. Like, it's doing it because you're leading, because you probably had to do all the jobs yourself already, because leading this thing was you leading it before there were any followers, before anybody believed in it. You had to lead it into a space where it became a success model. That's leadership too, you know.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I wanted to. You've been hitting on a lot of cylinders, brother, and I appreciate both of you speaking out on it. Um, for me, I'm looking at you got our people, unfortunately, for whatever reason, and you just said, you just dropped a 10 pounds worth of jewels right there. I think our people, the freedmen that come from, chattel slaves in the United States, I think a lot of times we're looking at people for how much money or success they have. And I think that leads to situations like you got people always talking about drinking the Kool-Aid or Jim Jones or these little cults that happen. And for the most part, once you get into studying it, I mean, it's not just a cult, it's also like criminality. I was looking at a documentary and they were talking about like Al Capone. They were talking about different people with La Cosa Nostra, different people that are into that kind of mindset. They said, okay, they were as far as I don't get deep into psychology, even though I took psychology, but they are basically sociopaths or psychopathic, but their leadership abilities were just so on point that people were like, yeah, I'm gonna follow this guy and I'm gonna support whatever he's saying and things of that nature. So it's easy to get led down the wrong path just because of somebody's cult of personality too. And we got to be very, very mindful of where we're being led when we are being led.
You
Let me
know,
just give everybody a quick recap. We're on here with Brother KOOL Kim. This is our second BTP, By the People Media and Be the Power mashup, which is us squared. It's with me, Brother Ali. We got Sister Kelly on here, of course, our brother KOOL Kim. So that's NYOIL. So basically, we're on here talking about this. And for the artists, when you come up, if you could drop in like a video link of your work, that would be appreciated. We always gonna, basically promote our artists that are up here. If you're a vocalist, musician, we want to appreciate your work. So please, when you come to the stage, just if you have your video or video link, please drop that. One link that's up there is Brother Ali Bey. He said it some time ago. He's very humble and he's up there on his guitar. I don't know. I was confusing him with Ernie Isley or something. So I mean, the brother, it was bad. He said, "Oh, that was like years ago," and that just has me knowing that he's even that much better at his craft. So we definitely wanted to talk about that. And everybody that's in here, if you can do us a favor, we were having some technical glitches when we first started out. If you can just share this space out, because we just started a little less than 40 minutes ago, but we want to get deep into this. We were talking about leadership and what, qualities people look for. A lot of times I say people are looking at money and success in our community and they get blinded by that. I mean, people were like, "Oh, Oprah." I remember Oprah was on her way up, and as far as having money, because she was in Baltimore when I was in Baltimore, but when she started making billions, all of a sudden it's like, oh, what would Oprah do? I mean, Oprah became like a demigod to a lot of people. And it's like, okay, a lot of what she's doing in the community, what is she doing in our community? A lot of her work is taking place overseas, and I'm not saying that that's bad, but what is she doing as far as our community where we're needing the real help is concerned? And why would you look at that as a leader? Well, a lot of, like I said, it goes back to a lot of us in our community tend to look at how much money you have, how much popularity you have on television, and if it's not that, then they don't want to hear from you. If you're not, even if you're a brilliant individual, you can be a brilliant strategist and you could be a brilliant person that does, tireless work in the community. And if they don't know you already, then all of a sudden, then somehow you're not a leader in people's minds. So I don't I mean, we could talk on that, or we could talk on other things that Brother Ali and Brother Kool Kim, or have brought up, or it may be something that they have yet to touch on. And I'm sorry, Kool Kim or Ali, or Kelly, did you want to come in and speak?
Yeah, well, again, to the issue, right? That's why it's kind of important for us to understand, like, the tools of the trade and all, like, what's going on, having that kind of, kind of a little bit of knowledge of psychology, like, enough to be able to understand people somewhat, to get a sense of, like, yo, we ain't got to go and get a PhD, but have some sense of understanding, like, that there are people types, and that, there are things that happen with us when we um, follow a cult of personality, or how we expect to see what leadership means. Leadership for us a lot of time goes back to tribes, and who is best equipped and most appearing to be able to take care of the tribe, like they had it, like they had the physical strength, to maybe they were hip to some stuff and did some things that were leadership oriented, that made people put their trust in them. And and that's why some tribes became civilizations that in some cases they were built on warmongering, because they were scared. They lived in scary situations. And so somebody that was strong and willing to fight and had the capacity to fight and win, could create a warmongering society. You're like, Dad, going, why y'all turning to warmongers after all y'all been through? Because we're scared. Some others might have had leadership that was built around intellectual pursuits, because to solve the problems that were facing them as a community, it required intellectual insights and ability and engineering and science and medical acumen. So the people that had those capacities became leaders of the group. Again, when we start looking at leadership as not being about popularity, but being about us individually finding people in our lives that can help us achieve the next level of the things that we're trying to achieve. That's what leadership is. You go to work, you get a good guy that's got a good manager, has good leadership, right? I know somebody, a good manager, that, like, he understands what's going on. He's not trying to act extra. He teaches you well, make sure that you're ready to go to work and do the job, so that you could be a good add-on to the team, and you actually feel compelled to come and work for that person, because they get the right person in the space of leadership, and they know how to work that situation, and you're being provided leadership in that space. We just got to have the capacity to understand what that is about, and then being able to draw upon understanding when we're in that power dynamic, that, I'm in a space where there's some leadership available for me. And we should be seeking out leadership, even if we're leaders. That's another thing. Our ego wants us to be leaders so bad that we never seek out leadership, and we never give ourselves a chance to grow from people that are smarter and more capable than us. But we should be constantly trying to find somebody that's hip to something that we're not hip to, that could tell us a story that we don't know nothing about, and sit at their foot and listen to a wonderful tale and learn from that. And even if they telling you stuff that doesn't feel like if you feel like you know this stuff already, that's just an affirmation that you're on the right track. You don't gotta let that person know how much you know. Be quiet. Sit still. Let them lead, because there may be a larger point, or you may be bearing witness to the application of the things that you thought that this person is now affirming in their leadership. Doesn't mean that you knew it, because you're not applying it. That person is applying it. And so you can see how the application manifests itself. And in that way, you've been led. You understand? And so, I think that a lot of my conversation as it relates to this particular discussion won't be, centered on, like, when you was describing with Oprah, and people being like, what is she doing for the community? You know, she's doing things, but they're outside of the community. What does that mean? How do we apply that? You know, I don't really think that leadership is required to benefit the person being led outside of you actually being led. You know, Jay-Z was famously quoted as saying something to the extent about, when asked about what does he do to give back, he was like, you know, among other things, he said, me just being me is me giving back, because I exist as an archetype for somebody. I'm paraphrasing at this point, but he was like, yo, I'm an archetype. You're seeing something. You might just look and see me and be mobilized and make a move. You might just look and see the possibility that I represent and be mobilized. And in and of itself, I've done a service to my community. You know, so we got to realize that leadership is not meant to be this thing that we can sit up there and say, yo, you know, this is they did these things, they deserve to be a leader. Nah, sometimes it's yo, he ain't do none of that kind of stuff. He's just, but he works hard at it every day. He's outside every day, putting in that time value. That is, and then we base it on that. I hope I'm making sense. It's just that what it is just that I just have this very strong come in. I have a strong point of view about. Okay, I have a very strong point of view about the fact that we want a lot of stuff as a community. I want this, and I want people to do that, and I want to be treated this way, and I want these sorts of this, and people should be doing that by us, and they should recognize us this way. But it's like, yo, when you look at our practice is not consistent with people that really feel the way we say that we feel. So we talk about leadership, and I'm like saying to myself, nah, fam, cats don't want leadership. Cats want enablement. And you know, they want people to rub them on the back soft and tell them that everything they're doing is dope. They just want to witness. They don't want somebody to actually be like, yo, let me give you some right knowledge about what this is that you got to do. And they don't want to have to be humble to it. They don't want to have to, you know, recognize that they don't know certain stuff. They don't have to be like, yo, where they have to be in that way where you have to say, yo, this person in this thing is superior to me for the time being. And I have to listen and learn. Like, people ain't really trying to do that. And so it's like, how do we even talk about wanting good leadership? Again, it's like the girl that has such a terrible criteria for men. Talking about where's the good men at? It's like, yo, you're not going to find them with that criteria. You got to have a better criteria. It's like the dude that wants a good woman, but he only chasing after fat butts and big breasts. And it's like, yo, dude, what you're looking for, the type of woman you're looking for, she's big. She's the scope she exists in is wider than that. You have to be able to see people for what they actually are. And you have to kind of see yourself for what you are before you can see anything in anyone else, you know? And so, you know, I think that those things are so important before we get too lofty in a conversation about talking about stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the conversation, because this is exactly the conversations we should have. And we should have these conversations from this space, the space that says, hey, who do you even think you are to ask that question? You're not even a person that listens when you get the question, and when that person presents themselves. So who are you to ask that? And then when we start getting questioned that way and be like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, you don't even appreciate these sorts of things that a leader is. So what would you do? How you gonna recognize what a leader is? You don't need you can't be led. You know, how you gonna win if you ain't right within?
Mm-hmm.
Is
How
what it
you gonna
is.
win when you ain't right within? You're right about that, brother. And one of the things I'm looking at, well, several things I'm looking at, and I've personally been in various situations where you're going to have to deal with leaders, have to be a leader. And you're right. In order to be a great leader, you have to be a great follower. You have to be able to sit back and look and see where a person is leading, how they're leading, how they move, and work what they do and don't do. And one of the things I wanted to say too about this Twitter space thing is, for the most part, when people don't understand this, Twitter spaces, when they have, okay, say if I call myself a leader, getting on here and calling somebody out personally is not a really good quality of a leader. You don't do that. If I have somebody and I want to correct somebody, I want to see them win. I want everybody that rocks with me, because I want to see them win. It's not about getting onto a Twitter space and blasting them. It's about calling them on the phone and having the conversation. It might not be something they necessarily want to hear, but it's not like knowing how to effectively communicate. And that's another thing I wanted to ask everybody that's speaking. If you could name three things about a good leader that you have always looked up and say maybe admire, if you can come in and share with us. So I'm not gonna. I want if anybody else wants to come up, just raise your hand and we'll let you up here. Kelly, I see your mic's open. Riri, I see your mic's open. If you want to join in and just tell us like three qualities that you think are necessary in an effective leader, then please do so.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
I'm sorry it took me so long to respond. Hi to the room. I'm just somewhere where I couldn't speak. I had to hurry up and run out the door. So, three things that I think uh, people that I look up to, that I kind of adopt in my mind as my mentors, is number one, their delivery and their tone and how they say what they say, regardless if it is a positive situation or if it's a negative situation. That's the first thing. The second thing is how the leader to me is how they navigate in a situation of crisis. Do they fold? Do they blame other people? Or do they just kind of take it in and then just, work through whatever the crisis is? And then the third thing for me, as far as me, what I recognize as a leader, is they're not the ones that look for accolades. Their work supersedes what they do. You don't even have to say what it is they've done. They don't have to give their resume. Their work speaks for them. And I'll take a breath.
All right, Sister Kelly, those were really powerful. I mean, really, really powerful things that qualities that you have seen in powerful leaders. So thank you for that.
My bad, Ross. Yeah. But no,
That's okay.
I agree with the brother Kim and everything that he said. Kelly's on point. I think she raised some valid points. Yeah. So that, I mean, look, that's what it is, man. He laid it out very, very well. And one of the main things I take from it is being a good student, being a good follower. Being a good leader requires good followers, so that's an important aspect of leadership that we have to always take into account. And that's something we know as we are advocates in this reparation space, that there are a few of us who have tried to take on leadership positions and in terms of trying to move this thing forward. But you're also running into an issue where you don't have good followers, people who are not really well versed in this particular type of advocacy work that we're all interested in. We have a lot of people just jumping into it and don't really know the important aspects of it. You don't really know any, or trying to pretend to take on leadership positions in this space. And so we're actually witnessing a lot of that stuff right now in terms of what leadership actually is not. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to say that.
I agree. Also, I think For me, it would be effective communication of communicator, and also integrity. If a person does not have integrity, and I catch them lying, catch them bullying, I catch them backbiting, I don't want to. I don't deal with that person to come in and consider them a leader. They're not a leader to me. They're somebody that I don't want in a position of power and authority. I see brother Xavier is trying to come up, so I'm gonna let him come up. Anybody else that has a mic, you can speak. Xavier, you can
Eh,
speak on what we were
uh,
talking about,
all
leadership.
right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for the space, and I just want to say my piece. Yeah, that's something I realized with a lot of our leaders of late, especially contemporary wise. I think as a leader, one value you have to have is listening. You have to listen very well, and that sometimes doesn't have to be palatable to what you feel, what you say, especially if the trajectory is to the goal of where you're trying to get. I find out a lot in the space, everyone's the master, or everyone's you come to me, and it comes like bully ball. And I feel like you can't get anywhere if you don't have that. And also, like you said, or one of the persons said, if someone's always talking about what they do for others, I'm very concerned about you as a leader, because then it seems to be your self-fulfilling prophecy or something that, corners you in. And I think you mentioned that when I got into space late, how you become a cult of personality. And I'm not going to say any names, but it's a few people in the space of late that I like. I like all of them, but I just think it becomes like tetherball, where everyone's all over the place, and it's like we need to be having a trajectory, like the brother said, Kool Kim, like what he just said. I think that's important. Kool Kim, you have to have one voice, one message, and I think they did that in the past. I think the civil rights, well, Dr. Martin Luther King and that group, I think that age they did it the right way, and now we're all over the place. But I'll land my plane, and thank you for giving me the voice.
Hey, Xavier, real quick, I wanted to ask you about three qualities that you think that an effective leader would have,
Okay.
that you have seen personally.
Okay, effective leader, for one, you, like I mentioned, you have to listen. That just a quality that I feel is, you have to have a receiver, you have to have a sender, and when you're the receiver, you just need to listen. Also, you have to be able to be, like I think another person said this already, how you manage situations, how you manage problems, that matters. And lastly, I'm just not a person who believes you're a leader. I question leaders who have beefs all over the place, or is constantly taking shots, but don't have a way to galvanize people without them being the center of the attention. I feel leaders are not one of those things. I believe in sometimes shadow leadership. I believe sometimes being the most known unknown, but having people and using the pieces around you to gather and to get to where you want to go. And sometimes you have to have allianceships. You don't, as long as the message is what it says, you don't have to agree with everything that person says. But I think a lot of times, a lot of people are not using their subject matter experts. They're not using qualified people to lead conversations, and I think that becomes problematic. But those are my 3 points, man.
All right, sir. I appreciate you for your words and your participation. Absolutely, those were wise and words, and I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Kool Kim, did you want to? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think that everybody's expressing things that I think are important, and a lot of us are speaking to the quality of leadership that we're willing to follow at this point, what we might be looking for, and what may make sense to us. And that's cool, because it tells us a lot about who we are in the context of that. Like, yo, this is what I think leadership is, because this is what I'm looking for in a leader, because I need this sort of leadership right now. I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, if you ask me, what are my three, things that I think qualifies someone as a leader, It's hard for me to answer that right now because I feel very much empowered to lead, right? And so I'm not looking for anybody to do anything to lead me. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing that I would be able to say like, yo, well, they've got to be like, to use some of what Xavier was saying, like, like they've got to be a listener. Like, for me, it's like I wouldn't agree with it. Not necessarily that I think that's exactly what a leader should be, but I would be like, nah, that's not really important to me right now because I don't require to listen to anybody, in the space of, or rather, I don't require to be heard by anybody where I'm expressing a grievance and then that person's willing to engage that grievance for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm more in the
Even
space.
you as a leader, though, Kool Kim, you as a leader, there are certain things that qualities that you have as a leader. I mean, these are things that you feel will make you a an effective leader.
I
One,
think,
you definitely are a great communicator. You know what I mean? So I think that is important. That was one of mine, saying that you are, and when I say communication, is encoding and decoding, listening and being there, as far as having the eloquence to be able to get people where they could hear you. So if they're angry, if I'm sitting in here and you and I had an argument or something crazy, you wouldn't be able to hear me if I said move out the street. A car is coming because we just got into a beef. So it's creating the environment so that people can effectively receive what you're talking about. So I think that's all of that is part of the milieu of being an effective leader.
well, I think, well, here's what I'm saying, and I receive everything you're saying with appreciation. But check it out. I'm saying something else. Like, it's a different point that I think that I'm making. See if you could track where I'm coming from, if I'm even making any sense for myself. Um, so yeah, there are those things like, that these very good qualities that a human should have when engaging other humans in general that make them more, engaging and trustworthy and, whatever the things that we are looking for in a human being to regard them as good leadership. I agree totally. What I think that I'm talking about is, what is it in us that is requiring those things in those moments? You understand? Like, for example, some of us like a humble leader, a leader that's not aloof in their leadership. They're not, you know, braggadocio and, strutting about because they're the leader, but they're, nose to the grindstone. Let me put in that work, blah, blah, blah type of leaders. What is it that we're looking for from our leader that we want him to be that way? We don't want him to be a bragger. We want him to be a humble hard worker that inspires people through his actions. Or, sometimes we want a leader that on one side of it feels like Kevin Samuels for us. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I want a Kevin Samuels type of dude to be out here talking each other on the stern and telling them what are they looking for? What's missing? That's part of what becomes important to them in their search for leadership. You understand? That question to me becomes significantly like it resonates so heavily for me when I think about that. Like, so well, why did you want a leader that was talk to you so kind? Like, you needed them to be so gentle with you when they're leading you in situations that may require a stern voice. Why did you need them to be so kind? What's going on with you that you need a specific way of learning this situation from a specific type of person? Because if we can figure out what's happening with you, then we could provide the best leadership. And you can start looking for the cues that help you determine what's good leadership for you as well. And then we start to be able to discern, boom, there goes the big word, discernment. We start to have a spirit of discernment about the things that we elect to add into our lives. This is why so many of us make memes about how this one ain't this and that one ain't that, because our lack of discernment, because we don't know what it is that we need and what we're after and why we qualify these things as being leader worthy and not, you know what I'm saying? And so we don't really understand what we're attracted to and why we're attracted to those things. And because we don't understand what we're attracted to and why we're attracted to those things, we tend to find ourselves attracted to the wrong things. And we pull this bad cycle, you know? And so I've been finding myself on that vibe as of late a lot, like where I'm having conversations with people about things, and all of a sudden I'm listening to the words that are being said, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, but why do you think like that? Like I'm thinking, you know, so I'm just like, I find myself asking that question more than anything else, no matter what the conversation's about. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what we're talking about, leadership. And it's like, yo, well, what are the three things that you find to be special about leadership or good qualities in leadership? And I'm listening to the answers. And the answers are all very great, intelligent, thoughtful answers. But I'm still compelled while I'm listening, saying, I wonder why this person wants that. I wonder why this person thinks that's important. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's something in there, and I'm just kind of posing that to everybody that has been listening and giving great feedback. Like, does it ever occur to you that your desire for certain um, behaviors in your leader is, or in leadership in general, is a reflection of maybe needs not being met, or you know what I'm saying? Like, does any part of that resonate with anybody on here?
Yeah, I could definitely understand that. Definitely, that makes total sense, brother.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I know for me, one of the things that I look at, especially in dealing with politics or
It
whatever the
makes
case,
sense
just
to
in
me too.
life.
It's just that I'm in the middle of something, so I can't really speak as much as you guys can. But everything you're saying is making sense.
Right.
Thank you.
Especially in life. I mean, if you look at it, one of the things that's just, I know for me, I need to be around people that have, you know, that they have integrity about them. So integrity is always one of my key components. I do not want to be around people that lack integrity. For those that just came in, brother Nick Bezel, what's going on, brother Divine, sister Shayna? Sister Cindy B, be sweet. You've been in here for a minute, but hey, and brother DC Scotty, we are with brother Cool Kim. This is another BTP squared production. We're just having this conversation about leadership, and we're talking, not necessarily just politics, but just in general, trying to get our people to open their minds and say, yeah, brother Cool Kim just made a very important point. I know you were going to come in on this, brother Divine, because we were talking too about not necessarily that you're looking for, but that you see. Because when I say integrity, y'all, I'm really talking about myself too, right? That's one of the things that I always strive for, is to have treat people the way I want to be treated. If I were in their shoes, if I can't do that, for whatever reason, I don't want to be around that person. I don't want them to be around me. That's one of the things that I see, how to just treat people. But we've been around, many of us on here have been exposed to some bad leadership. We've been exposed to people all our lives who weren't about, their word was not their bond. What they said didn't matter because they were going to go back on it anyway, even though that position maybe that they held was that of a leader, they were not effective leader. So that's more of what I'm speaking about. Anybody else want to step up and take the mic? We're talking about leadership right now. Anybody else that wanted to step in and have a conversation about it, brother Divine? I'm about to hand you the mic because I know you're a leader and you definitely can speak on that. And Sister Shayna is a leader. I mean, we got some leaders up in here. So, anyone else wanted to speak on it? Kelly, Xavier, Kool
I don't
Kim.
know if I gave the qualities that I think a good leader should
No, you,
have. Um, I would say responsibility, decisiveness, and influence. I think all three of those things definitely need to be present in good leadership. You know, without those, I don't know that it really works. And if it does, I don't know if it works well. So, but anyway, that's what I would add.
all right, thank you, brother Ali, on that. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, like we were saying, we were just kicking it around as far as the Queen of England. Not saying that she's necessarily a leader. I guess the leader. I see. I don't understand royalty, so I really don't want to go deep into the mindset of that. But I do know what I do understand as far as England is that they have a certain tone that the royal family has to lead with. They can't come in and just throw things together. Everything has to be formal, everything has to be laid out to a certain degree. But they don't actually lead the politics of the country. They more lead the, um, I want to say, social order of the country. So that's the main thing that they lead. They don't go in. That would be the prime minister. That would be equivalent to the president, and then they also have a parliament, which is equal to Congress. So I do know that. Um, the things you learn, I know they have had people that were lined up to be king of England, like Prince Edward, and he married a woman who was divorced at the time. Was her name was Mrs. Simpson. So he abdicated the throne of England because he would have been the prince or the prince that actually would have been king. So is what he did leadership? Yeah, absolutely for their social order. Um, whether it was effective and powerful, of course, it was like people were like, "Are you kidding? You're going to marry this person and abdicate the throne?" But that's what he chose to do. I think that was back. I forgot when that was. It was a while ago. It was back in, I want to say, the 1940s, but it's probably, yeah, around the 1940s, sometime in that decade. But anyway, we're talking about leadership. And we're talking about not just political leaders, we're talking about social leaders. We're talking about anything that is, as far as lead our people and the qualities that people need to look for, therefore. We also wanted to talk too, like I said, bad leadership is having somebody in a position and they have none of the qualities or they totally lack the qualities that we were talking about. They have no forethought, no integrity. Yeah, they have no insight. They're ineffective communicators, and things of that nature. So I could name names. You all are very intelligent. You can use your imagination. But here, I'm going to ask Miss Battle, Divine. I mean, I don't know if you can talk yet. Shayna, Cindy B, Riri, DC Scotty, if you would come up and just give us three qualities that you think make an effective leader. Nobody has anything? Okay, cool, Kim. Let's start talking about music. Cool, Kim. We're
Well,
gonna change it. We're gonna
well,
talk. I'm sorry, somebody had something to say?
now what I was gonna say before we go there, before we
Yes,
jump
sir.
off of the subject, I think that you know, just and I'm curious to hear if anybody has any thoughts on this. Um, I think the thing with leadership again, and I think we're all starting to figure it out a little bit, and I think that's kind of why it might be difficult for there to be a lot of feedback because a lot of us realize that our criteria for finding good leadership has been screwed, and that's why so many of us are once bitten, twice shy. And a lot of us on this call are leaders in our own minds. Like, yo, I gotta do my thing. I gotta, and the things that mean the most to us. You know what I mean? We finding ourselves being, thrust in a space of leadership, not because we really want to even lead. It's because like there's nobody there that could help us. So we kind of just like it's a vacuum that we're trying to fill. And I think when we start talking about that part of it, right? And you start talking about again the whys, like why do you need this kind of leader? You've mentioned a couple of times like trustworthy and honest, and that those things are important. And it's like, well, damn, well, why are we in that space that at a bare minimum we're not even worrying about policy? We want a cat that's gonna be trustworthy. Like, damn, just be trustworthy, dogs. Like that'll show you where we at mentally and emotionally. It also shows us where our weaknesses are at too, because it's like, yo, if somebody come across like that, I'm gonna definitely be hook, line, and sinker. I need to be mindful of that because that's what they always do anyway to us, right? They spring out false leadership to look like the leadership we was looking for, but it turns out it really wasn't. So that's like a lot of times we find ourselves following some real weirdo cats on the internet, on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and TikTok and Twitter, and listen to these little nonsense dissertations they got about a bunch of nonsense. Cats trying to build their own cults as mad cats that already was having cults as mad cats, now trying to build up cults. Stuff is just nonsense. Well, why are we following that? Because they're presenting some component of this leadership that we think we need. You understand? And see, we haven't assessed why we need that. You know what I'm saying? We assess what we needed. Yeah, all right, cool. These are things that I think are important in leadership. Yeah, but why? What's wrong with you right now that you think that that's important? You understand? Why do we have preachers that you ain't a preacher worth talking about if you ain't got $500,000 suits on? You know what I'm saying? Like if you ain't wearing $1,000 suit at a minimum, you ain't getting it done if you're not driving a certain. And so we see these clips on internet of these preachers going off on their congregation because in essence the congregation even expects to see their leader in opulence. They judging them by that. So he ain't doing good. What kind of preaching he doing? He
Talk
ain't got a
about it.
bend. You understand? These are things that are going on. We got to like, and so we don't deconstruct that. You know what I'm saying? Allow me to provide this leadership. If you can't deconstruct why you find whatever you think is attractive in a leader attractive, then you're a Vic waiting to happen. Because all that has to happen is I just need to deconstruct why you need that kind of a leader. And once I just deconstruct why you need it, I give you that. And then you give me everything that I want from you. I mean, that's not just even, the mechanisms of leaderships and followers. That's the mechanisms of mice and men and women. And you know what I'm saying? Like that's the whole everything. If you don't know why, and I do, I'm using that against you every time. And that's important for us. Even those of us who have deemed that you have to be the leader. Why? Why did you have to become the leader? Because nobody would help you. Why? Was you not prepared? Now that you're the leader and you see all the shit that you're supposed to do that you haven't been doing, and now you see it, and now you may be able to take a look and step back and say, yo, I wasn't prepared for leadership when I was looking for the leader that I was looking for. I was looking for this quality of leader, and I was this quality of follower. This is so important that enough can't be said about this. Like I'm actually kind of surprised that it's not resonating with more y'all, because this is like such a big deal. You want a leader, but you just legitimately don't even know why you want the leader, and you just legitimately don't know why you want these particular aspects of this leader, but you want them to lead and make things better. You don't even know what you want to make better because you're so out of the loop of what's happening. All you know is that you want somebody to make it better for you. That's what you know. But you don't really know even why. You don't even really have a determination of what's better. Like, if you just think about how crazy that is. And then apply it to your everyday living. Apply it to your husband and your wife. When you're wondering why you're so dissatisfied with them, but you're not even sure why. Like it's like, well, what are you dissatisfied with? And it takes you some time to like deconstruct it for a minute and say, yo, what am I bugging for? Or why am I looking for so and so? Like I'm chasing after this, Mr. Super to be my leader, and that's not what I needed. I just needed somebody that would be thoughtful and compassionate and caring and understand my goals and provide me with specific instructions to help me achieve this level of goals from where I exist right now. That might be your next door neighbor that got right knowledge for you and that and could provide you with the leadership that you need at this level. And then if you receive that leadership, just like when you receive good teaching, you get to get promoted to the next grade. And eventually you graduate into another space of learning. But in theory, you're supposed to never stop getting promoted in knowledge. So you're supposed to always be looking for the adequate leadership. So I just want to say that, again, just to put a button on this, without belaboring the point, and as it's clearly not a discussion that everybody's quite available to chime in on as much as maybe it's one for just listening to a couple of voices that may have something. Every time we don't all got something to say about something. So I guess that's what this is, this kind of discussion. But I just think that, we would all be well served to look at the motivations as to why we want and select and choose the things that we want, select and choose, so that we can be in control of our desires, needs, and wants, as opposed to being a subject of said things. And that's my thought.
All right. Well, I mean, you know what? This is one of the things. Thank you, Cool Kim, for that. One of the things I had spoken, because I, like everybody, I guess, pretty much knows that I'm an educator, and I had spoken with a bunch of, the young brothers and sisters some years ago, and I said, well, why don't you want to, like, why are you following the one that's the silliest or the wildest or whatever the case? And they said they basically we had talked about this, and one of the things they came up was they did not want the responsibility of, like, if somebody were to make a wrong decision
That's right.
or something like that, they didn't want the responsibility of making that decision. They wanted the person that they all considered the leader to make that take that hit. Oh, that's their fault because I did what they led me to do. And I look at it and say, man, this sounds to me a whole lot like, why did you follow Jim Jones? Why did you sell, there were people in his congregation that were seniors. They were elderly. They owned a house. They could live on their pension or whatever the rest of their life, and they sold the only house they had. They sold everything. They gave this man all of their money, everything. And it's like it goes back to that same kind of mentality. And I really don't want us to fall into this thing of, well, I don't want the responsibility of leadership, because if I do that, then I got to take the hit if things go wrong. And I got to take the hit. So if I get behind the person that is going to take the hit, then I'm not as responsible. I said, you're always responsible for the decisions that you choose. I don't want somebody in a van to go over the cliff. I want to be the driver to be able to drive the vehicle so we're not even going near a cliff. And they thought that I was like, so what are you saying? I said, I don't want somebody else to be responsible for steering me one way or another. And I'm just in the back seat, trusting that they're going to make the right turns and the right decisions in my life. That's one of the things that I think that is for me, highly problematic. I don't want to follow somebody thinking that it's all about them eating the responsibility and thinking that I'm not responsible because I'm not the leader. I mean, that's really deep, but it's like older people are doing the same things that a child would think like, and that's a problem.
No, I think you're right about that. I think that that's accurate as well. You know, I think there's just so many different ways to look at it. And again, you know, as with conversation, when in all other things, a lot of times we speak from the perspective that we need to be heard in the most. You know what I'm saying? Um, you know, for me, I think that I need to be heard in the context of this conversation. What's important to me in the space that I exist in, right, is, you know, people understanding what it means to follow, because I'm constantly looking for people with talents and skill sets that can shore up leadership, mine in particular. It doesn't really, you know, yeah, I got great thoughts and ideas and leadership capability, but man, sourcing good followers is like finding good employees. Like, that's difficult. It's not easy. Like, I don't know how many of y'all have ever been in an H&R situation, like open a business of your own, but ever have to like try to hire somebody to do something. Like, yo, you talk about gambling, yo, that's you know what I mean. It's hard, and people don't really understand that. So for me, as somebody that is or considers himself a leader, you know, as much as I'm assessing myself and whether or not I qualify as a leader by my own determiners, you know what I'm saying? Um, I think that what I find myself most thinking about is, you know, when I see how many people like I'll give you a good example. I used to own a bar, right? And yo, I'm an entertainer by trade, you know, so I entertain. Like, I can get into a situation. I don't care what the context is. Once I get a grasp of what the context is and what the vibes are, I can entertain in that scenario. You know, that turns into being considered like the life of the party starter to set it off. I'm that guy. I can always do that. It doesn't matter what the framework. It could be like one of these sorts of things where it's, you know, this chat type of voice chat things. I could get on one of these things and be that dude, like, yo, go, 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 talk that talk. And, you know, I just have a talent for that. You know what I'm saying? So when I can do that, I go open a bar. I don't really even know much about alcohol. You understand? I had to like go online and watch like the tipsy bartender and some other stuff to just like acquaint myself with what bartending was even kind of about, you know. But because I had that this talent to shine in front of people, when I'm bartending, I'm making this thing look like a lot of fun. It looks like a good time. You on the other side of the bar looking at me like, yo, that looks fly. I want to do that too. Look, the ladies just talking to him, son getting tips. Yo, he talking all of this one and that one. Yo, I getting money right in front of him. You know, it have its appeal. You know, but they don't really understand what they seen. They're not realizing that the entire time they watching me, I'm washing dishes the entire night, yo. Like, who the hell wants to wash the dishes for like all night? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you understand? Or like getting balked on because the drink ain't coming out fast enough. But all this other stuff that's going on, sticky floors, and this is spilt on me, and I, you know, all this stuff going on that's not as fun as it seems. And then they petition to become a bartender. Yo, I want to really try this. I want to try this. Boy, after that first night, their feet be hurting so bad because they had no idea what it was that they were seeking after. They was looking for something else, and they couldn't assert what they was after. They was looking for the bright lights, the smoke, and the mirrors of it. They wasn't trying to get no career in bartending and customer service, and you know what I'm saying. That wasn't what they was there to do. So, you know, You end up in this just bad situation with somebody that's wasting your time as the facilitator of this experience. You understand? And that's this thing about leadership that we got to tap into. You know, like think about us with leadership. Like, and let me just make a more salient point. One of the things about why I'm so caught up in the people and not the persons, right? The people being the followers, the masses in general, versus the few people that are in a position to lead, is that, yo, look at the Black American experience with our leaders, man. We hard on leaders, yo. We really caught up in a lot of this Americanized mindset. And so we do sometimes fall into somebody, even though we be thinking we think superior to the wickedness of the wicked minded, this and that. Yo, we be with that real bad, man. We really don't do good by our leaders. People that put it out there for us, put it down for us. Like, we don't really be doing good by them. We don't really take care of them. And that's because we, in them as a group, are not taking care of in general. Like, we don't got institutions and infrastructure to support taking a stand on things that are important to us. But even still, like, we don't got nothing for our leadership, yo. Yo, you know that Malcolm X's daughter and granddaughter got locked up because they got arrested driving a stolen van full of dead animals in the back. Not stolen van, but stolen truck. Like, how in the world, how do you even write the story of Malcolm X's daughter and granddaughter getting arrested in a stolen pickup, in a stolen truck full of dead animals? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense to articulate that to y'all right now. That really happened. And a lot of us don't even know that. A lot of y'all listening right now don't even know that. That actually happened. To
Yeah, I didn't
Malcolm,
know that.
to Malcolm X's daughter and granddaughter. How many of you know that Malcolm X's grandson was murdered in Mexico?
Yep,
Yeah, I
I know
knew
about
that.
that
Yep.
for sure.
You understand? So when we really get into, like, yo, as somebody, we wearing this man's face on shirts and got the X on our hat, knowing exactly which X we talking about. We talking about Malcolm X. You understand? Ain't no other X. They might talking about, you put an
That's
X
right.
on. You talking about Malcolm X, not Racer X, not Mr. X, Malcolm X. You understand? And they was in such dire straits financially, his family, that whatever they was doing, and it's not the first time they got caught up in some scam like that. That whatever they was doing, they was compelled to do some foolishness like that. They should have been royalty in our communities. And we didn't treat this martyrs family with any level of honor and deference and favor as it should be. As it should be. It's not even a discussion. Like, everybody, when everybody think they getting money, but you mean to tell me your leaders is living like you're real, like, yo, this is somebody that sacrificed. They literally risked it all for us. And this is the people that he left behind that were dependent on him when he gave it all for us. This ain't even like this is his mom's and his dad, and, well, they was grown when this happened, so they was taking care of themselves. They good. No, this is his kids, his wife and his kids, and we don't got nothing, no trust fund for them, no nothing, no good house for them that we couldn't pull this little bread together to put what? But we talking about what's a good quality in a leader. It's a good quality in a leader, somebody you can use. Because that's what most people are describing. That's what I'm getting to. That's what most people are talking about when you talk about leaders. Nowadays, you're not telling somebody to teach you anything because you know it all. You know what you're talking about? Somebody that is willing to bust their ass out of capacity to do all the things that need to be done within the situation and circumstance that you can emulate, follow, learn from, at no expense to yourself. Not even the Just the basic decency to be appreciative of what that person is doing for you, or the sacrifices that they had to make to provide you with such insights that you probably didn't earn. That's what we really be asking for. And that's why we can't ever find it. Because the thing that we really need doesn't respond to that level of petty thinking. And we're not even willing to own that that's what we're thinking. We really not even in that space. Like, we can't even science that, yo. What I'm saying might sound just nuts. But, yo, we're not even willing to even engage that truth. Like, yo, this is what it is. Like, yo, fam, you asking for something, you not even quite, what was you talking about? Look at the thing. You've had this on multiple occasions. And look what you did with it. Look how you treat it every day. If it don't got a shiny suit on, if it ain't fresh to death, if it don't got the newest outfit, whatever, whatever it is, the visuals of opulence and success in the monetary world about things that are not even built around monetary success. You're trying to sell to people, you're looking for success from people that for them to even have succeeded that way would be counter what it is that they talking about. So how could you have that criteria when you're looking at people for leadership, that they have to be successful in a capacity that has nothing to do with the leadership? So you're not looking for a leader. You're looking for something else. And until we like, yo, I don't know, it seems evident to me. Maybe I'm making a point that everybody gets, and so it's like I'm just making the same point everybody already gets each case, like, and I mean, shut up, right? But I feel like this is something that I generally don't see in this conversation, not just this one, but the versions of this conversation I found myself in the past. It just seems like that's the part that no one's engaging. And I feel like whenever we have conversations, like, we're not really talking about the actual issue. We're talking about this real convenient part that, just admonishing its function and the convenience of it existing is easy. But really that deconstructing the situation and looking at the actual culprits of the problem and the people that have abdicated their responsibilities for comfort in this problem, well, that's too difficult. And so we often just don't engage it. I just think it's just a bad practice. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a bad practice. And I don't see us winning like that in the long run. But those are my thoughts on that. You know what I mean? That's I don't know. Is this thing even on?
Yeah, brother. We listening. I mean, we listening. People in here, everybody's listening. I'm not gonna keep us up too long because people are, if anybody else wants to come in and speak on leadership, I appreciate exactly what you're saying, because you're right. Once people do take the reins of being a leader, whether you're talking Dr. King, Malcolm X, whomever, people tend to come in and their life is just fraught with just, while they're here, it seems kind of great, but at the same time, their family and everything else, their lives are turned upside down. I mean, my soror Betty Shabazz, may she rest in power. Even how she died was very upsetting to many of us. There was some things going wrong in the family, and her bed was set on fire, and she, ended up succumbing to the fire. But I mean, that right there should have never happened to her. She was, she raised, what was it, six daughters, and along with, her husband after he was assassinated. And, their lives have just been all kinds of topsy turvy because of, the fact that he was no longer here and able to, manage. So she did the best she could, but people were there that, being a leader in being a leader, uh, Malcolm X and Dr. King and whomever else we could see are true leaders, their families' lives are turned upside down. It really is. So a lot of people do not want to take on the mantle of and the title of leader because of those reasons. And why aren't we more supportive of the great leaders, I should say, we have, but ones that have leadership, cult of personality leadership? Those are the ones that people ride or die for. Okay, for some reason, brother Kool Kim is reconnecting. I don't know. Might be the signal. Y'all know how Twitter Spaces does. It trips. Um, I'm gonna let you up here, brother Ray. You got the mic till he comes back. Okay. So
I'll be real brief. I just wanted to speak on what I just heard you say because that's absolutely true. A lot of our leaders, something that's not really talked about is what really happens with their families. Like for example, obviously Martin Luther King's mother. A lot of people don't know she was actually shot in the church, and killed. Obviously MLK. He was stabbed and almost. I forget what church he was in, but he was almost stabbed to death. His brother, he had another brother, I believe his name was A.D. King. His brother drowned in a pool, even though his brother was an excellent swimmer. Excuse me. With Malcolm X's family, obviously Malcolm X got killed. His family was under constant surveillance, things like that. His father, which had, that was before, obviously got ran over by a train and all this other stuff. So, we have to definitely, that's something that people, I don't think, really put into consideration when they step up, into these activism roles. Like not too long, I think it was right when the whole Black Lives Matter thing kicked off. I believe that brother Darren Seals, he was shot up real bad. He put in a car and the car was set on fire. Like these people aren't playing. So I'll land right there.
absolutely. That was one of the things we were talking about, leadership. I mean, we're asking people to step up and become leaders, and even in stepping up and being a leader or becoming this leader, what are we willing to do in order to sacrifice for the right people and protect the right people, support the right people, and who are the right people? Is it cult of personality? Like we were saying, there are some people that are, leaders of mega churches, and you're not going to support them, or people join their church because it's got 40,000, 50,000 members, or whatever the case, and or are they really doing work in the community? I mean, like they should. Or are they joining just because they can say that I'm a member of this mega church that has a lot of prestige in the community? And why is it that the pastor has to have $3,000 suits that the congregants pay for? It's all kinds of ways that people have leadership misconstrued, and it's problematic. It's 5:52. I'm not going to keep us on long because we've been on for almost 2 hours now, believe it or not. And I want to thank you, Brother Ray, for stepping up and speaking on that, because that's important. And I want to let Brother Ali close us out. I'm not sure if Brother Kool Kim could get back in, but like I said, we're about to close out anyway. So, Brother Ali, I wanted to thank you for co-hosting.
Oh,
We
no
we did
problem.
this as a 2 hour segment. I mean, that's good. We not trying to go. I don't think I believe in quality over quantity. We don't have to talk for 5 hours in order to get our point across. So, Brother Ali, I'm gonna let you close it out, and I
That's
want to
right.
thank you, family. In order, just have a great and safe weekend, Brother
Well,
Ali.
no, I'll just say thank you, Ross, for inviting me in. I think Kool Kim is a wonderful speaker with a lot of great thoughts, and it's an honor to hear him speak each time he speaks. It's always something. He gives us something to take away. A lot of food for thought. And so I just want to say thanks, and I appreciate you for having me in the space.
Absolutely, my brother. You know I'm a uh get my brother Ali Bay up here. And I you got to surround yourself with people that you respect and love. And brother Ali Bay is that. He's like my little brother. I mean, I don't even know. That just came out of It's like, he has a lot of great qualities. He's very talented brother. Little brother Ray Smith. I mean, we got family on here. My sister Shayna, my sister Riri. So we on here, family, but we basically trying to. My sister Kelly Pryor, can't forget about my ace. Uh, so we on here, and I appreciate you all showing up and showing out. And yeah, it's one to grow on. So I'm gonna close the space out, but thank you for checking us out and share the space because people need to hear about this leadership thing. And on that note, I'm out. Peace and blessings, family. Peace and reparations.